Hello, this is McD the Beast, and this is McD Sports 4 coming to you today with my NFL predictions for the 2022 NFL season. Before I continue, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. Please subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate you do that. Really trying to grow the channel, so go ahead and do that. A few thoughts about the NFL season before I show you my standings and the playoffs and who I have winning the Super Bowl. I think the NFL is a bit top-heavy this year, and what I mean by that is the previous few years I could really only point out like maybe at most like 3-4 teams I could point at a team and be like, yeah, they're not going to be competing this year. They'll be like a 4-12 team back when there was 16 games and stuff. It was 17 now. This year, I could point at like at least 6-7 teams and say that about them. So I do think the NFL overall is a little bit top heavy this year. I think the AFC is pretty deep. I think the NFC is actually a bit deeper than some people want to think. And overall, I think it's going to be a pretty competitive league. I really do. I think it's going to be a great NFL season. And I can't wait to watch it starting this Thursday when the Bills go into the Los Angeles, into SoFi Stadium, and play the Rams. So let's get into it. We'll kick it off with our AFC East predictions here. First place is the Buffalo Bills. I think they're clearly the best team in the AFC East. I've been going 13-4. Josh Allen there at quarterback. I was kind of wrong about him. I'll admit it. I didn't think he was going to pan out to this when he came out of Wyoming. But I think the Bills overall probably have one of the best rosters in the AFC, if not the best roster in the AFC. I've been going 13-4. Second place is the Patriots. They still have some good pieces on there. Mac Jones at quarterback, I think, holds them back a little bit some. Also, they haven't been as talented as previous years, primarily because Tom Brady left there in New England. But I still think they finish above 500. I have them going 9-8. Third place is the Dolphins. I'm kind of low in the Dolphins this year. I think Tua Tagovailoa is not going to be the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins in the next year or two. I honestly think he can't play in cold weather. You saw last year against the Titans. Basically, that was a number 2 versus number 7 matchup. And they lost that game 34-3 because Tua did not know what he was doing in 40-degree weather. I know they go ahead and bring in Tyreek Hill. I mean, that could help them some, but at the end of the day, I just don't see it. It's also a first-year head coach there. If you know me, I tend to under-project teams out of a first-year head coach because I think that overall it takes a little bit to get used to them, for the team to get used to them. So I have the Dolphins in third place going 6-11. Fourth place is the Jets at 4-13. I actually think they're heading in the right direction, but they're taking baby steps. Had a great draft, in my opinion, this past draft, but I still think it's going to probably take 2 very good drafts for the Jets to really be competing for the playoffs. That team has a lot of holes on it still. I have them going in fourth place at 4-13. AFC North, first place is the Bengals at 12-5. I think the Bengals are the best team in that AFC North. They don't really have any holes outside of offensive line going into this past offseason. They fixed that to a certain extent, so I expect the offensive line to be better. As long as they don't get injuries, I do think the Bengals will be fine. I think they'll finish first place. I think they are the best team in the AFC North, 12-5. Second place is the Steelers. I still believe in Mike Tomlin. Their over-under is 6.5. I will absolutely take the over in that. I would actually absolutely throw like $50 on that if I wanted to. I mean, you look at the Steelers. That team is kind of a rugged team. You look at the roster. I know quarterback is a big hole. If they're going to start Mitchell Trubisky or they're going to start the guy they drafted out of Pitt, whose name is escaping me. But overall, you look at the Steelers. I just look at them and I think that Kenny Pickett, that's his name, Kenny Pickett. I think that I just believe in Mike Tomlin. I think they're going to find a way to be above 500, and I think they're going to win a game or two. They're not supposed to win this season. So I have them going second place at 10-7. Third place is the Ravens at 10-7. Divisional records. I have the Steelers with a 3-3 divisional record. The Ravens with a 2-4 divisional record. That's the difference between that tiebreaker. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think the Ravens are overrated on paper. I really do. I don't think they have a number 1 cornerback. I know people are going to be Marlon Humphreys. He's a number 1 cornerback. He's not a number one cornerback, people. He's a very good number two cornerback. Um, they have no wide receivers. I mean, you just look at the team overall, it's not as talented as previous Ravens teams have been, in my opinion. I still think they're going to be above 500. It's going to be tough for them. It's tough for me to see them make the playoffs and win more than a playoff game, really, if you want my honest opinion. So I have them in third place at 10-7. And then the Browns in fourth place at 5-12. We know Deshaun Watson's out for the first 11 games. Kind of a weird number, but if you think about it, it's 11 out of 17, not 11 out of 16. So he does get to play the final 6 games. But I think the Browns are going to kind of just chalk up this season as a basically they're going to chalk up. They're just going to draw X through this season. And next year is going to be when the Browns really start getting good. I have them in fourth place, going 5-12. I think maybe a few games don't go their way, but overall, I just think this year is going to be a rough year for the Browns. AFC South in first place, the Indianapolis Colts at 11-6. It pains me to say it, I'm a Tennessee Titans fan. I do think the Colts win the AFC South, ending the Titans' streak of winning 3 straight AFC South championships. I think Matt Ryan's going to have a comeback year. I think he's going to be in the conversation for comeback player of the year. I think overall, if you look at the team, not a lot of big names on the team per se. I mean, John Fatera, the running back, obviously, but they don't really have any major holes on this team. The Colts. As I said, I think Matt Ryan is gonna have a coming out party. I think he's gonna revive his career. I think he needed a change of scenery, and I think him and Indy is gonna do just that. I think they win the AFC South at 11-6. Second place is the Tennessee Titans. The Titans' wide receiver room is not going to be good this year, in my opinion. I also think Landry, or linebacker, who tore his ACL. I don't know if anybody saw that, but Harold Landry III tore his ACL earlier this week. That's a devastating blow for the Titans. That's 10 sacks right there. They're going to have to find a way to try at least get 6-7 sacks covered for that. But overall, I mean, outside of those 2 holes, basically, the team doesn't have many holes. I mean, it's still going to be a very competitive team, in my opinion, the Tennessee Titans. Mike Vrabel, I think, might be the best coach in the NFL, head coach in the NFL, or like right there in the conversation. I mean, and remember last year, the Titans went 12-5. Playing the most players in NFL history. So I'm going to assume that the Titans are a bit more healthier this year, and I'm going to say that they are going to be there at least at the end competing for the playoffs. So we'll see if I have them in the playoffs. But second place, 10-7. Third place is the Texans at 4-13. I do think they are better than the Jaguars. They will be better than the Jaguars this year. I think they're going to be actually a pretty competitive team. I know I have them at 4-13. They just don't have the talent to really go up against a lot of these teams, the Texans. I do think Lovie Smith is a good hire at head coach, but at the end of the day, they don't really have any stars on that team. They but they're going to be in a bunch of ball games this year, in my opinion. I think they're going to be like kind of last year's Lions. If you remember, the Lions were in a bunch of ball games last year. But I think the Texans, slowly but surely they're heading in the right direction, but it's still going to be a while. I got the Texans in third place at 4-13, and then fourth place the Jaguars at 2-15. Guys, that roster's this bad. Giving Christian Kirk $20 million a year is laughable, in my opinion. The roster overall for the Jaguars is just bad. The good news is that I think you got quarterback correct and you have your head coach correct. So hopefully this is just a one-year thing where they're just this bad, and hopefully they can start heading in the right direction there with the Jaguars. But I have them in fourth place at 2-15. But I think it'll be I think they're going to be in more ball games this year than they were last year. Let's just say that. All right, AFC West, first place Kansas City Chiefs. I have them with the tiebreakers over the Broncos and Chargers. I have all 3 of these teams going 11-6. I refuse to not pick against the Chiefs unless I see it. I know they lose Tyreek Hill. They traded him away. I think that's going to hurt a little bit, but they do bring in Juju Smith-Schuster. Patrick Mahomes, I think, is the best quarterback in the NFL right now. And the way they call the offensive plays there in Kansas City, they're going to find ways to score the ball there. The question is defense here more than anything. I think with Kansas City, if they could just find a comparable defense, they'll be fine. So I got the Chiefs in first place at 11-6. Second place is the Broncos at 11-6. Broncos, they just signed Russell Wilson to that huge extension. They traded for Russell Wilson, if you guys don't remember. So that's their quarterback now. And you look at this team, they're ready to go. I mean, they're ready to compete, make playoffs, possibly compete for a Super Bowl. If you look at this roster, they were really a quarterback away, and they got that Russell Wilson. So I think they do. I personally do think they make the playoffs this year. We'll see how far I have them going. But second place, Broncos, 11-6. Third place, Chargers, 11-6. You gotta think with all the talent on that team, especially on the offensive end of the ball, that they're gonna at least find a way to make the playoffs, right? I know that I called the Chargers the chokers here before, and I hope I don't have to use that term, but you gotta think they're gonna make the playoffs. You gotta think with all that talent on that team. You gotta think they're gonna make the playoffs. I have them in third place at 11-6. I don't think they get the tiebreakers against the Chiefs and Broncos, but I think they make the playoffs. And then in fourth place, the Raiders. Yeah, I know they bring in Devontae Adams. I just don't believe in Derek Carr. I just don't. I know he made the playoffs last year. He lost to the eventual AFC champs. I get that, but I don't know. And is Josh McDaniel really that guy? I could see that not working out. Just saying. I still think the team's pretty talented overall. I think they'll go 9-8. But and they're in a tough division, so it is going to be a bit of an uphill battle for them to begin with. But even let's say they're in the AFC South, I'll honestly probably pick the Colts ahead of them if you want my honest opinion. So I don't know. I just don't buy into Derek Carr. I get that he has a top 5 wide receiver now, but we'll see what happens. I got the Raiders in fourth place at 9-8. Now to the NFC. We'll kick off with the NFC West. First place, 49ers, 14-3. Yeah, I know Trey Lance is starting. I don't think it matters. I think Kyle Shanahan is the best play caller in the NFL and probably in the world when it comes to football. And I think they're going to find ways to score points. Defensively, they're pretty damn good as well. I think they might be the most complete team in the NFL, to be honest with you. 14-3 for the Niners. Second place is the Rams. I think they will have a little bit of a hangover. I do. I still have them going 10-7. A lot of star power. Stafford's arm does concern me a little bit. I will be honest. He kind of has that Big Ben injury where Big Ben just couldn't really throw the ball down the field. So it does concern me a little bit. But I believe in Stafford. I think Stafford. He proved me wrong last year. I said the Rams will make the playoffs, but I don't think they will go deep. He proved me wrong. It turns out that you just need talent around him. So I got the Rams here coming in second place. Third place is the Cardinals at 9-8. Cardinals are going to be really good offensively. Defensively, I do think there are some question marks with them. And also, I just don't believe in Kyle Murray or Cliff Kingsbury. I just don't. I think Kyle Murray got overpaid big time. Cliff Kingsbury was an under 500 head coach. He's been under 500 since being in Arizona. Good news is that I have them going above 500 this year, but at 9-8, I just don't see the Cardinals really doing anything better than 9-8. I tried, but here's the good news. Marquise Brown, one side, after 6 games, you'll get DeAndre Hopkins, who I still think might be the best wide receiver in the NFL. So we'll see what happens, but I do think they're going to score a lot of points, the Cardinals. And then fourth place, the Seahawks. They're clearly tanking. They do have a decent running back room, I'll say that, and they still have some decent players on the team. But quarterback, you're starting Geno Smith. That's going to be rough. 4-13. I still think they're going to maybe win a game or two that they're not supposed to win. But at best, I see really 5-12. I have them going 4-13, as I said. They'll come in last place in the NFC West, as they're going to basically be in line to draft a quarterback in next year's NFL draft. NFC South. First place is the Buccaneers at 14-3. I think they're going to find a way to go ahead and win a bunch of regular season games, the Buccaneers. I just do. I do think this team does have some holes. Uh, and I'm not really sold that that they don't. Well, let me reword it. I'm not sold that they have the best position group in any category throughout the NFL. But I just think they're going to find a way to win a bunch of games this year. I just do. 14-3 is where I have them at. Second place is the Saints at 12-5. I think the Saints are going to be sneaky good. I really do. They're going to be 12-5 in my opinion. Defensively, they're going to be pretty good. Now offensively, they're starting Jameis Winston. Hopefully, he doesn't throw as many interceptions. I actually think he won't throw as many interceptions because I think they're going to try to run the ball more. But I know Dennis Allen, first-year head coach, but there's continuity there. I think the Saints, they have 4 easy wins in my opinion in their division against the other 2 teams in the NFC South. But I like the Saints to go ahead, go 12-5, probably get that first wild card. Third place is the Falcons. I do think the Falcons are a little bit better than the Panthers. Marcus Mariota, say what you want about him. I still think he's capable. I really do. He is in a system he's very familiar with. If you remember, Arthur Smith came from the Tennessee Titans. He was on that coaching staff when Marcus Mariota was the starting quarterback. They drafted Desmond Ridder. He's going to be eventually the starting quarterback, probably starting next year for the Falcons. But you look at the Falcons, there's too many holes on this team, especially defensively, in my opinion, more than anything. I think they're going to struggle big time, but I do think that they're going to be competitive in some of these games this year. So 3-14 is what I have for them, but I think it is going to be a rough year, as I said, but I think they're going to be competitive in some games. Fourth place is the Panthers at 2-15. Baker Mayfield is basically the only one on the offense. I know they have Christian McCaffrey as well, and they do have DJ Moore, a wide receiver. I mean, offensively, they're not horrible, but I mean, you look at the defense, it's just they gotta hope a lot of people have big years this year defensively. They won't even have a comparable defense, in my opinion. I just think the Panthers overall roster-wise is probably the worst team in the NFL. I have them going 2-15, and it's a bad situation overall because you have a head coach that's probably going to be fired by Thanksgiving, and it's just a bad situation there in Carolina. NFC East, first place at the Philadelphia Eagles at 13-4. I'm high on them this year. Devontae Smith on one end, A.J. Brown on the other end. I do believe in Jalen Hurts. Defensively, this team's going to be pretty rugged. I think they're a good team, the Eagles. I really do. They surprised me some last year, and I think they continue to work off that, and I think they get better. So I got them coming 13-4. Second place is the Cowboys at 10-7. They have a lot of star power. I think C.D. Lamb is really good. I think Dak Prescott, I believe in him. Running back room is just average. Zeke's kind of falling off a little bit. Defense is going to be a bit of an issue, in my opinion. They do have some stars in Michael Parsons on this team, such as Michael Parsons, and the safety, which I'm forgetting, who had all those interceptions early in the year. His name is escaping me. But they offensive line, I think, is going to be an issue for the Cowboys. You haven't heard me say that in a while. Usually, offensive line has been good for the Cowboys, but they just brought in Jason Peters. That news came in earlier today. 4-year-old Jason Peters. So we'll see what happens there. He's not going to be playing Week 1 because they want to get him acclimated, so he's going to be on the practice squad for the first week or two. But I don't believe in Mike McCarthy as well. That's kind of another reason why I don't have the Cowboys doing as good as some people might want them to be, or at least some Cowboys fans think they could be. But I have them in second place, 10-7 in the NFC East. Third place is the Giants. I think the Giants. Listen, the more I read into the Giants, the more I actually like. Let me reword that. The more I read into the Giants, the more I'm liking them. I don't think Daniel Jones is the guy. I don't. But I do believe in the new head coach hired, Brian Daboll. I think I think that was a good hire. Defensively, we'll see what happens. So getting better on the offensive line, there's still holes on that. And there's been holes in that offensive line, it seems like, forever with the Giants. And also, they need to stay healthy. They always seem to be banged up every year. They need to stay healthy. But I think they maybe win a game or two they're not supposed to win. Maybe even surprise a few people. 5-12 is where I had them at. 3rd place in the NFC East. 4th place is the Commanders. I'm just going to be honest. I originally had the Commanders at like 6-7 wins, maybe like 2-3 weeks ago. But the more noise I'm hearing out of DC, it just gets worse and worse. It sounds like a nightmare situation there in DC. I have no faith in Carson Wentz, and I've made that pretty clear on this channel before. I have no faith in him, and I've been proven time and time again in that, in my opinion. Defensively, I do think they'll be better than what they were last year. But I just think there's too many. I think there's just a lot of noise in DC, and also Chase Young is going to be out for the first month, I believe, so that's going to hurt them as well. But 4th place with the Commanders at 4-13. NFC North, 1st place is the Vikings. I do have the Vikings and the Packers both going 12-5, but I have the tiebreaker going to the Vikings at 5-1 in the division. I have the Packers going 4-2 in the division. I think the Vikings have a big year this year. They bring in an offensive head coach. He was the OC for the Rams. I think it's going to work out with Kirk Cousins. The more you read into what happened with Mike Zimmer and Kirk Cousins, they had to get rid of Mike Zimmer because them two were kind of clashing, or at least like being passive aggressive towards each other, I guess. And listen, Mike Zimmer was a good head coach, and I said it was time to move on from Mike Zimmer. I mean, 8 years, 3 playoff appearances. It seemed like they were going nowhere, basically. So it was time to get rid of him. I believe he landed a job with Jackson State, if I'm not mistaken. So he's going to be coaching Jackson State this fall. So I'm happy to see that. And I believe Mike Zimmer is a head coach. But back to the current situation, I think they're going to be a lot better offensively this year than what they were last year. I think Kirk Cousins has a renaissance year. Sort of like what Matt Ryan is going to have. And I think they surprised some people and come in 1st place, 12-5 for the Vikings, and 2nd place is the Packers. 1st place for the Vikings, 2nd place for the Packers at 12-5. I look at the Packers. Matt LaFleur, I'll continue to say it, I think is an idiot. I think he's someone who thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. He has no wide receivers there in Green Bay. I mean, you're telling me that Sammy Watkins and Lazard are your top 2 wide receivers? That's kind of rough. I mean, that to me, those are number 3 wide receivers. No disrespect to them, but that's kind of what I think of them, in my opinion. They should be fine defensively. They're going to run the ball, but I think a bit more this season. And they have Aaron Rodgers, which is at war as a top 3 quarterback in the league. So, 2nd place, Packers, 12-5. 3rd place, Lions, 6-11. I think they build off of last year. Last year they went 3-14. I think they double their win total and go 6-11. You look at the offense. It's actually not bad. Now, granted, I'm not sold on Jared Goff. I think he's a system quarterback, but I think they have running back figured out. I think offensive line is getting better. They have tight end figured out as well, in my opinion. Wide receivers, I think they're okay at. I think they could be better at, but I think they're building towards getting better at. Defensively, they'll probably be better than what they were last year. And I do believe in Dan Campbell. I do. I think he showed me enough last year where he's willing to try anything. I mean, remember that game against the Rams? He basically threw the kitchen sink at them. I think they went for like 2 fake punts, a fake field goal. It was crazy. But I got the Lions 6-11. They just don't have the talent to go up against a bunch of these teams really throughout the league. But they're going to be in a bunch of ball games this year, just like they were last year. And I think they'll win a few more than what they did last year. I had them doubling the win total at 6-11. And then the Bears in last place at 4-13. Yeah, I think the Bears are going to drop off. They need to hire an offensive-minded head coach, and they went out and got the Colts defensive coordinator. And people aren't high on that hire, and people are also not sold on their offensive coordinator hire. I think Justin Fields is doomed to fail there in Chicago, and I think it's going to be a rough year for Chicago. I think they go 4-13, 4th place in the NFC North. Now the wild card matchup. So the 4 versus 5 seed in the AFC, Chiefs over the Broncos. I think the Chiefs are the better team. 3 versus 6, I have the Colts over the Chargers. I'm going to trust Matt Ryan over a young Chargers team. And I'm also going to trust the Colts head coach, Frank Reich, over the Chargers head coach, who really likes the analytics. So I'm going to take the Colts in the 3 over 6 matchup. And then the 2 versus 7 matchup, the Bengals over the Titans. Now, I know the Titans, the Steelers, and the Ravens all have 10-7 records. The Titans got the nod because of their division record. I had the Titans going 4-2 in the division, the Steelers going 3-3 in the division, and the Ravens going 2-4 in the division. But I think whoever gets that 7th seed will lose to the Bengals. The Bengals are just a better team than the Titans, in my opinion. They beat them last year. The Bengals did, so I got the Bengals going ahead, moving on to the divisional. I got the Saints going into Minnesota and beating the Vikings. I think the Saints defensively could maybe get a stop or two, make a play or two, and that might be the difference in that game. So that's why I'm going to take the Saints. I like the Packers over the Eagles. I'm just going to take Aaron Rodgers over Jalen Hurts. That's basically what it comes down to. I think the Packers will find a way to go on the road and beat the Eagles. And I like the Buccaneers over the Rams. As I said, I'm kind of high on the Bucs this year. I think they find a way to beat the Rams, and it's revenge from last year as well, since the Bucs almost won that game against the Rams last year, but the Rams had that last-second touchdown after that amazing comeback from the Bucs. So those are my wild card picks. For the divisional round, I like the Bengals over the Colts. I just think the Bengals are a bit better. I do think this is going to be a close game, but I just think the Bengals are a bit better. Bills over the Chiefs. I think the Bills get payback from last year's AFC divisional game. I'll take the Bills over the Chiefs there in Buffalo. I'll take the Bucs over the Saints. Yeah, I know the Bucs have struggled against the Saints since Tom Brady's really been there. But the game's in Tampa. I do think that Tom Brady knows how to win football games, and I'll go ahead and take the Bucs. And then I'll take the Niners over the Packers. To me, I think the Niners are just better than the Packers overall, and I'll take the Niners over the Packers. In the championship game, so the AFC Championship, I'll take the Bills over the Bengals. I think the Bills finally break through and make a Super Bowl. The game's in Buffalo. I think these teams are pretty much even, but I'll give the nod to the Bills since they're at home. And then in the NFC Championship game, I think the Niners are the best team in the NFC. And I think they beat the Bucs in Levi Stadium. And they probably Tom Brady's last game. I think Tom Brady's retiring after this year, by the way. I don't know if you've seen the headlines. I'm not going to get into it, but Tom Brady, I think, will retire after this year. I think he wanted to come back for one more year. Felt like he had something left to prove. But I think he just comes up a bit short as the 49ers beat the Bucs in the NFC Championship game. So that my Super Bowl is the Bills versus 49ers. I don't know where the Super Bowl is being held this year, but it's the Bills versus 49ers. And my Super Bowl pick for the 2022 NFL season for Super Bowl, I want to say it's Super Bowl 55. I want to say Super Bowl 55, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really keep track to it. But this year's Super Bowl champs will be the 49ers. My pick's the 49ers. I think they are the best team in the NFL. As I said, I just think Kyle Shanahan is the best offensive play caller in football right now on any level. And to be honest, I don't even think it's really that close. I mean, Lincoln Riley, I think is right there. Is probably number 2 there at USC. But I think the Niners have the best team. I think they're the most complete team, if you want my honest opinion. I know quarterback's a bit of a question mark, but they're going to figure it out. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo's staying this year as the backup. So either way, I think they're going to figure it out. And I have the 49ers winning the Super Bowl. So that is my Super Bowl pick. That is my NFL predictions. Comment down below. Tell me your NFL predictions. I always like hearing from you all. Thanks for watching the video. Hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate if you do that. Big D the Beast signing off.